here. Yep, looks like I am. 1 sec till I just set the table, so to speak. I'm not sure why I can't see that on the actual Facebook thing. Let me just check I'm doing this right before I get into full flow and mess it up. Yeah, I think. I think I'm there. Wait a minute. Let me check. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Yes, I'm there. Okay, I see it. Right, perfect. Okay, so today we are cracking on with language questions. We've looked a bit at understanding questions and putting things into your own words and using the context round and about to help you work out words that you don't know the meaning of. Okay, well, today we're going to dig a bit deeper. And at the start of the week, I put a video in here and it didn't work. And I was going to make another one. And then I thought, well, I'll just put the essence of what I put in there at the start of this one. And this is the essence of what I put in. So a writer uses specific tools. If you wanted, say you wanted a table made, you would go to a cabinet maker and you would ask the cabinet maker what, to make your table. He would ask you, what are you using the table for? What's the purpose of the table? Who's going to be sitting at the table? And he would take all of these things into consideration. And then he would get certain tools. So, well, he would use the wood and he would use nails and he would use a hammer, chisel, plane, all of these technical things, and he would fashion a table of sorts. He would build you a table. He would make you a table. Similarly, a writer thinks, who is my audience? Who am I talking to here? And what is my purpose? Am I writing to entertain? Am I writing to persuade? Or am I writing to persuade, inform, and entertain? Okay. Now, think about when you wrote your discursive essay or your personal essay. You had to think about the purpose of your writing. And then the writer thinks about his audience. Who is he talking to? And what's the purpose? Entertain, inform. And then he digs into his tools and he uses specific tools for specific purposes. Well, your job in the language questions of your reading for understanding and analysis is to pick out the tools. I know that the writer chose and used this tool, and I know why. Here was his purpose, and here's the effect. It's as simple as that. That's what you're doing, okay? And remember, of course, that all the tools are in front of you. So it's super easy. Okay, so let's dig into the language questions. We're going to look today at sentence structure. I'm going to share my screen here with you. And we are going to jump into sentence structure. Okay. So, I think I made this big the last time and I kind of got into trouble a wee bit, but let me try it again. Okay, so the writer sets out his ideas through sentences. And sentences are structured to present or highlight the writer's ideas and arguments. Okay, so when you're asked to comment on sentence structure, you're being asked to comment on the way the writer set out his ideas, to highlight the writer's ideas and arguments. And there are the keywords, and we're going to keep coming back to that today. Okay, in other words, what tools has the writer used? Well, the way he structured the sentence, he's put it together, is what you're being asked to identify here. So you gain little credit in sentence structure questions for just saying, this is how it's put together. You know, the writer uses a long sentence, the writer uses a list. You don't get any marks for that, because by higher English level, you know, you should be able to identify a list or a long sentence, for goodness sake. Primary 2, you would have said that's a long sentence. You must go on, explain the structure and its effect, and how the technique makes clear the writer's viewpoint. So we're going to see this in action here. Okay, so here are some of the writer's techniques in sentence structure. So paragraphing. How has the writer used the paragraphs? In other words, are the paragraphs of uniform length? You sometimes get a paragraph which is just one sentence, and then is followed by a longer paragraph, preceded by a longer paragraph. Well, why? Why has the writer done that? Inversion, repetition, climax, anticlimax, antithesis, long short sentences, lists, rhetorical questions, punctuation, and parenthesis. Now, today I'm going to miss out punctuation because that's a whole big lesson, and I'd quite like to do that in a bit of depth, so I'm going to miss that out today. Okay, but with all of these, when you're writing about them, when you're identifying them, you must come back to the subject, and the subject as in the subject of the sentence. What is the sentence about? You're being asked what technique, what tool is the writer using in this sentence? So in other words, you don't just give the definition of, well, the writer's used a long sentence because he's listing things. I want to know the subject of this sentence and why it's effective in this sentence. Okay, but we're going to see this in action, but I cannot emphasize that enough. That's where everybody is losing marks. They're not coming back to the subject. Okay, I'm going to go on about this again today. Right, let's look at paragraphing firstly. Okay, so we take a new paragraph in English, in any kind of written work, when we have a change of time, a change of subject, a change of place, or a change in speaker. But it may also be used to create a specific effect in a piece of writing, and you need to know what that effect is. For example, a single sentence paragraph places emphasis on the topic discussed. Now, if you wrote that in your answer, it places emphasis on the topic discussed, you would get a big fat 0, because that is the definition of the single sentence paragraph. Can you see that? That is not taking your knowledge of the definition of a single sentence paragraph and bringing it to bear, bringing your knowledge of that to this paragraph. What's going on in this paragraph? So no definitions, you'll get no marks for that. Okay, so let's look at this sentence here. These two paragraphs here, this example here. It's about Concorde, the plane, the supersonic plane, which is no longer in existence. It represents the heights of human endeavour, and now it has plumbed the depths of human tragedy. Concorde is the cathedral of our age. The architects of the medieval cathedrals explored the limits of the available technology to create buildings we wonder at today. The designers of Concorde pushed the limits of their available technology to create an aircraft of extraordinary sensuous beauty and power. So this sentence here, it represents the height of human endeavour, and now it's plumbed the depths of human tragedy, is a paragraph. Now, unusually, it's a single sentence paragraph. Why? Okay, well, we've not done punctuation yet, but maybe you've done a bit in the class, and I hate when I make it full screen. You would notice that there is a semicolon there, and it's balancing out the sentence, the two different parts of the sentence. They contrast with each other. Look, heights of human endeavour, depths of human tragedy. Now, that's a very dramatic statement. So Concorde was, was human ability at its highest, It was an amazing thing that human beings created, but it also caused a lot of tragedy. Okay, it's plumbed the depths of human tragedy. So we've got the contrast there: heights, depths, human endeavour, human tragedy. Now, that's a beautifully crafted sentence, and the writer, to draw attention to the subject of it, has placed it on its own. Now, come back and say what the subject of it is. Now, I've already said it, okay? Great things humans do, how awful it was. Okay, so it's a contrasting thing. It's a great thing, but an awful thing. Okay, so say that in your own words. And that is why the writer has given it its own paragraph. 0 marks for saying to draw attention to the subject. You've got to say what the subject is, and that's easy, isn't it? Okay, so it creates a sense of importance and drama relating to Concord. Okay, can you see that? That's an example of paragraphing, sentence structure. So look out for that. Come back to the subject of the sentence. Okay, now we're going to move on and we're going to look at sentence length. So this is your next thing. You are directed by the question to look at lines 6 to lines 14. Your first job in sentence structure is to get a line and put the line down the side of where you're being directed to. I think we talked about that yesterday. So 6 to 11, a line down the margin so that you know where you're reading. And the next thing I would urge you to do is to circle the punctuation. And then you very quickly see what's going on, especially the sentences. Break, forward slash at the full stops. And then you can quickly see, do that first, forward slash, do. Oh, one big long sentence, or oh, 5 short sentences, or oh, a long sentence and a short sentence. But you're getting an overall view if you circle or slash. I do the sentences first. Lots, you get the overview, and then you start to circle, semicolon, colon, inverted commas, exclamation marks, and then you're getting a broader picture of what's going on. But for our purposes at the moment, we're looking at sentence length. Are there particularly long or short sentences? Okay, so no points again for saying that's a long sentence or that's a short sentence. You've got to say what the subject of the sentence is about. Now, make that fit. Okay, so let me give you an example. Today I have walked the dogs, I have hoovered the house, I've done the shopping, I've done some ironing, I've been teaching, I've done the garden, and I've cooked the dinner. Now, I have written that as one, or I've said that as one long sentence. I could have said, I've had a busy day. The difference is by listing it, by making it long, I am emphasizing the number of things I've had to do. So come back to the subject, number of things, busyness, and make that fit into your answer. The writer, speaker here, used a long sentence to emphasize the number of things she's had to do today, the busyness of her day. Okay, can you see that? So a long sentence can be used to demonstrate the complexity of an idea. It's used to mimic the ideas or subject matter of the passage. And it may also emphasize the imagery. So we'll come to that when we look at imagery. So a long sentence, what's the subject of it? Is it a complex idea? Are the writer's arguments complex? It's a good word to use, the writer's complex ideas. Or what? What's going on in the sentence? But link your answer to the subject of the sentence. So long sentence because whatever the subject is. If there's a long sentence followed by a short sentence, well, is the short sentence summing up this bit here, summing up the argument, or drawing attention to an important point? What's the content of the short sentence, in other words? What's going on in it? How does it relate to the long sentence that's come before? Because they're related. The writer's not writing in isolation. He's deliberately chosen a long sentence, short sentence. So what is the relationship between them? Is he summing it up? Is it full of his opinions? Short sentences can sometimes have opinions. They can sometimes be funny. A wee short sentence after a big long sentence. But read it closely. See what's going on in it. Look at the punctuation involved. Circle the punctuation, and we'll come to that. Okay, I think we've got that. Okay, so let's look at this one here. I finally got home at midnight and waited for my mother to round on me, : how worried she'd been, how she'd pictured me in an accident, under the wheels of a bus, kidnapped in the boot of a car, the ransom note. She said nothing. Okay, so what's going on here? If we were to comment on sentence length here, sentence structure, you would write about how the writer uses a long sentence, subject, about how he expected his mother to react to his returning home so late. He expected that his mother would do all sorts of crazy things. He had the ideas in his head of how, not crazy things actually, of how she would react. Okay, and he lists them. Okay, he lists them. And we're going to come to listing, and I used that sentence as an example, but now then, so it's a long sentence reflecting the very many things that he expected his mum to, how he expected his mother to react to his coming home late. So there's the number of things, okay, and the variety of things. Now, can you write down somewhere number plus variety? If you're looking at a list or a sentence, a long sentence, it's a good shorthand phrase to use in your answer. The writer writes a long sentence to reflect the number and variety of ways he expected his mother to react. Okay, and then we've got, it's followed by a short sentence. She said nothing. So we've got the contrast between the long sentence and the short sentence, but we've also got the contrast in the content of them. She actually said nothing. So he had these expectations in one sentence, and actually she said nothing. So that kind of places, it makes it more dramatic. It makes it funnier. I don't know, you would need to know the context a bit more. But it certainly makes the contrast between what he was expecting and what happened more dramatic, more pronounced. Can you see that? Okay, come back to the subject. Short sentence, long sentence. Can you see the way I'm all the time talking about the content? That's what you've got to do. If you're not doing it, start doing it. Okay, let's look at a list. When a writer uses a list, think about the following questions. What is in the list? Now, I'm meaning a sentence which is full of a list, like that last sentence we looked at. Is there an order or a sequence to the items? And we're going to look at this. Is it climactic or anticlimactic? Why did the writer present a list to the reader? Why would he do that? What's the subject? And does it help you to understand the writer's idea or viewpoint? Right, look at this sentence. Fast food is now served at restaurants and drive-thrus, at stadiums, airports, zoos, high schools, elementary schools and universities, on cruise ships, trains and airplanes, at Kmart's, Walmart's, and even at hospital cafeterias. So the writers used a list there. Let's look at the subject of the list, where fast food is served. Now, I would imagine reading this passage as a whole, the writer is annoyed or appalled at the number of places where fast food is served, the number and variety of places. There's that phrase again. Okay, now let's look at what's happening in the list. It starts off with drive-thrus. Well, we would expect fast food at a drive-thru, wouldn't we? And then we go to stadiums, airports, zoos, and then it finishes at hospital cafeterias. What's going on in that list? Is it getting worse and worse and worse or not? Yes, it is. It's getting more and more shocking. Okay, hospital cafeterias, you would not expect fast food served there, a place of health, a place of whatever. So the writer has used a listing function, in a listing style in the sentence to show us the number and the variety of places where fast food is served, culminating in serving at hospital cafeterias, an awful, shocking place to be serving fast food. Subject and the way it's written, okay? Come back to the subject. I can't say it enough. Okay, I wonder, let me see how long I've been on for. I don't want to go too long. I want you to just get wee sort of short bits. Let me see. Yeah, I'm just going to crack on, actually. I'll just crack on. Let's just crack on. Keep going. It's another 5 minutes, not long. Okay, so, yeah, let me just check I'm in the right place. Inversion. Inversion is where the subject of the sentence is stated before detailed information is given about it. So inversion is when there is a delay in identifying the subject of the sentence, where we invert the word order. So we usually write, the baby rocked back and forth. The emphasis on that is on the baby. But if we put back and forth, the baby rocked, well, that's a different story, isn't it? The emphasis becomes on the movement, is placed on the movement now. Okay, so it's the focus is altered. So look for that in sentence structure. Is there a strange word order going on? What's the subject? The subject is the movement. What's been inverted? The writer wants to emphasize the movement, so he puts those words at the beginning. That's the tool that he uses, inversion. Okay, for inversion, it may be helpful to think of the character Yoda from Star Wars. Your father, he is, win this war, we will. So not, he is your father, we will win this war. They've inverted it. There you go. Okay, come back to the subject. What's going on in the sentence? Repetition, a favourite one with sentence structure. Repeated word patterns in order to focus emphasis or to elicit a specific response, to make you feel a certain way. The writer does it deliberately. The writer's not short of words. He just repeats them to get his point across. What's the point is what you're being tested on. So here's a sentence. There's one thing we never have enough of, attention. Attention from friends who can't chat because they're on their way, that should be, because they're on their way to Starbucks. Attention from the boss who'd rather we kept to email. Attention from family who are always glued to X Factor. Okay, so the writer has repeated attention from at the beginning. Look, attention from. He's broken this long sentence up. He's separated the different parts with semicolons in a listing function of the different ways we want attention. We want attention from other people. We want attention from our employers. See how I'm putting it into my own words. And we want attention from people round about us, closest to us, our families. He repeats attention from, the phrase attention from, to reinforce the idea that that's what we're looking for from people. We can't get enough of it. Now, this dash here would alert us to the fact that he's going to explore the idea of attention even further. That should be an apostrophe S as well. Right, so, but we'll come to that, single dashes, okay? When you get a single dash, the thing afterwards is going to maybe be explored in a bit more detail. But can you see that the repetition there is deliberate, obviously, and it's to draw attention to the fact that we want attention from so many different sources. So that's repetition. Coming back to the subject. Now, when you're looking at sentence structure in the paper, when you're told where to go, when you've got lines 6 to 11, you're going through it, you're forward slashing to break up the sentences, and then you're circling the punctuation, and then you're starting to underline things that you see. And when you start to see repetition, underline it, make sure, or circle the words, but make sure your eye is drawn to that in some way, because you're going to comment on it. Okay, So it's a big thing in sentence structure. Why is the writer repeating the words and phrases? What's the subject? Okay, now we talked about listing functions, listing sentences, and we talked about the idea of a climax, where items are placed in a specific order in the sentence with the most important detailed. Okay, so fast food, that sentence there. Cruise ships, trains and airplanes at Kmart's, Walmart's, and even at hospital cafeterias. So that list has ended in a climax. It's gone, whoa, shocking. Oh, that's awful. Why? What's the subject matter? Well, the subject matter is the number and variety of places where fast food is available, and she finishes with the most shocking. She finishes with a climax with the most shocking. Why? To shock, because that is more dramatic, isn't it, if you finish with that? Okay. And the opposite of that is come back to the subject, saying it again. And the opposite of that is anticlimax. So the writer builds up to an event that doesn't happen. And in a list, the least important thing comes last, or, you start with the biggest and you work your way down, or the least important comes last, and it's often for comic effect. You kind of building people up to expect something, and then it doesn't happen. That's where a lot of humour comes. So look at the sentence here. In moments of crisis, I size up the situation in a flash. I set my teeth, contract my muscles, take a firm grip on myself, and without a term, what should that be? Always do the wrong thing. Tremor. Without a tremor, that should be always do the wrong thing. Okay, so let me do that again. In moments of crisis, I size up the situation in a flash, set my teeth, contract my muscles, take a firm grip on myself, and without a tremor, always do the wrong thing. Let down. Ha ha ha. It's meant to be funny. Okay, but it's anticlimax, and the humour comes from the anticlimax. Okay, and then lastly, we've got antithesis, which is the placing of opposites together in order to create a contrast, therefore making a point memorable, perhaps to lend a greater insight into the subject. For example, you are easy on the eyes and you're hard on the heart. Contrast, easy and eyes, heart and eyes, easy and hard. Okay, can you see that? So, okay, one more. Rhetorical questions. Why does the writer use a rhetorical question? The word rhetoric means the art of using language effectively. A rhetorical question is a device used by writers to introduce an argument or a point. It doesn't have an answer following it, so it encourages the reader to think about the argument, perhaps persuading them to agree, making you question yourself, your thoughts on the subject, drawing you in, making it far more conversational. And you'll see lots of rhetorical questions in the kind of passages you get in higher English. Okay, I'm going to do parentheses when we come to a punctuation. I'm going to do there. So I'm going to stop it there. And I'm going to put below here, I am going to put a passage, and you can, not a passage, a small extract. I might put 2, and you can have a look and write down what you would comment on the sentence structure, and I'll put the answers in tomorrow. Okay, so have a look at that, and I'll put the answers in tomorrow. I don't think I'll be able to do a Facebook Live tomorrow. I'm kind of busy tomorrow, and I might just take a wee break over the weekend, but I'll pop in. I'll see what I'm doing. Post some comments. Let me know any struggles that you're having with sentence structure, any questions you've got. If you've got anything you want to say, put it below here. That would be great. Okay, I will see you soon, and look out for the question. Okay, bye now.